All right, this is one of those instances where you want to use the stop block and the fence on a bandsaw, because I want this part of the cut to be straight and I want it to stop at this shoulder before I continue to cut my curve here. And I want both pieces to be symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to adjust my fence over here a little bit. And that should be good. And then I'm going to push this through and get this out of the way here. Until I get to this point, and then I'm going to adjust my stop block, because the other one is the mirror image, so I have to run it face down, and I won't be able to see when I need to stop it here on this end of the rabbit cut here. So that's why I'm gonna push it till I hit the stop block, back it out, then I can flip it over and make my cut, the curve cut, and get my fence out of the way and see what I'm doing. So let me make this cut here, get my saw turned on, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, I'm just waiting for that blade to stop. Bring my stop block up to where I need it to be. I want that to be fairly square because this is going to be up higher. And that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so that's my straight cut. Now I can make this one, knowing that both these cuts are going to be the same distance from the outside. Okay, I'll remove my fence now and make these finishing cuts here. Incidentally, I guess the reason I wanted to show you is that this kind of gives you an idea of the versatility of our fence on a bandsaw. You know, being able to use a stop block like that is probably not that big a deal, but it is easy, I guess, putting it that way. So let's get this out of the way. And finish these cuts here. I want to stay away from the line, and when I get to this corner, I want to leave that corner and sand to it, sand to the line. Okay, so these two pieces are now mirror images of each other. I'll sand this profile and then continue on with the rest of the project here. But using that fence made short work of making this nice straight cut here. And the sanding is, you know, that's easy. Just takes a little time. Okay, that looks pretty good. Got the other one done already. Maybe just a little bit more on that point. Not much. That's better. All right, the rest I can do with the hand sanding once I get it, you know, put together. So let's now that I've got this established, I know what width to cut my bottom board that's going to hold the balls. So let's get over and do that. Okay, at this point, I still have the ability to choose which board I want to be on top. Simply by reversing the two ends or just flipping the two boards. But I like the one I have on top right now as my top piece. And you can see here that I've got a nice transition to that front there. That looks good. I like that. And some hand sanding will clean all that up. So I'm going to make a mark on this for my width of cut on the bottom board, and get both ends here. Okay, so I can rip this and then I can start laying out my my groove location and my hole location for the pool cues as they lean up against the wall. So let me get this rip cut made and we will be back. All right, let the layout begin. I cut this just a little strong and it's still just a hair strong, not by much. But I'll get that later with some hand sanding. I ran it through my table saw and then hit it with my low angle jack plane here. Got a nice clean surface on this side. Looks like I got to run this one too with my jack plane. So I'll do that. I'll get that cleaned up and then we'll stand it up after we get it all put together. But I want to lay out now with my top piece here as well. It's gonna be shorter, but I want to flush it up to one end. Actually, I'm going to flush it up to the other end, and then start making my marks. Let me reposition this camera here so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to make my marks from this left edge. Every, inch and a half in, I think it was. I got to look at my plan over there. And then every 2 inches until I get to a certain point. And then this is going to get cut off on this end because there's no need for it to be as long as this because of the shelf I have here from my brush and my chalk. So I'll determine that length as well when I get to that point. So let me make this. I get my ruler out and start making some marks here, and then we can go to the drill press and start putting these holes in here. All right, I'm going to try and explain this to you the best I can and what's going on. I had this put together, and then I put all 15 balls plus the cue ball in here, and I found out that I had about 1.5 inches from the outside edge of, or I'm sorry, from the point where the ball became tangent to the bottom board here, about 1.5 inches. So what I did was made a mark from my edge here, which is this mark here. I hope you can see that. And then measured over, did I say 1.5 inches? I think I did. It was 1 3/4 inches. So then I measured over from this point to here 7/8 of an inch. Did the same thing on the other end. And then knowing that my billiard balls are 2 1/4 inch diameter, plus 1/4 inch back from the back here, that becomes 1 3/8 inches. So I drew that center line at 1 3/8 inches, and just double checking, I had 1 1/4 inch here. I believe that's right. Yeah, 1 1/4 inch, which is, like I said, 1/8 of an inch space between the backboard and the ball, and everything's working out good. So this is what this is. What this represents then is the point where the round edge of the bit that I'm using is going to stop at that point on both ends. So I have to take into account, if I'm using a 1/2 inch core box bit, I've got to stop at 1/4 inch sooner, or, so that the outside edge becomes tangent with this line on that point. Now then, on the top, where I'm putting the pool cues, I'm measuring over on my plans here. Hope you can see this too. On my plans here, it says 1.5 inches from this edge. And the reason it says that is because I have a 1/2 inch lip here that I have to take into account. So that gives me then my 2 inch spacing. 1.5 inches from this edge, but overall it's going to be 2 inches, and then so on down the line, 2 inches. My holes are set back 1 inch, and I'm drilling them with an 1 1/8 inch bit. So I've got my first hole set here. Everything else after that is just a matter of repeating every 2 inches, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Now, I thought I could do these both at the same time, but I can't, because this board has to be offset by that 1/2 inch. So you can see my mark here. When I put it on my 2 inch mark, I've got that 1/2 inch over offset here. So that's okay. as long as I start in the same spot, you know, I can stagger my cuts every 2 inches, no problem. I'm not worried about that. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to start making those. I think the only thing I will show you is my setup on these. After that, it's kind of, you know, drill and repeat type deal. So let me get things set up here. Okay, here's my setup that I have to do for figuring out how to tilt this at 3 degrees. What I've done here is I got my adjustable tri-square on here to change the angle, and I've got it set at 3 degrees. And then I'm taking my other tri-square and putting it on the bottom and making sure that when I finally get that perpendicular to the table, like right there, I know that this wedge is where it needs to be. So when I take this apart now, I made a line here, and that's my, that's going to be my, let's see, how am I going to describe that to you? I got a piece of scrap cherry here that I'm going to use for a wedge, and I want it to be the same length as this board. It's longer, which is good. But I'm going to put it underneath here like so, and then be able to position my stock. But I want it to be underneath here, so I'm gonna say that it's gonna be that wide by, that's the exact thickness. That's gonna be perfect. So if I make it that square, if I rip off a piece that's almost perfectly square, that's going to serve me just beautifully. So let me do that. I'm going to run this, make this cut. I'm going to rip a piece off of here from the outside edge that's going to be square. I'll put it up on here, and then what I'll do is reset everything back up and just double check to make sure I'm at 3 degrees. Now if I'm off a little bit one way or the other, it's not going to matter, you know, but it's one of those things. If I'm going to take the time to make this wedge, I want it to be as close as I can. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, I got the wedge made. Coming off the saw, it wasn't perfect, but I just made a couple passes through my planer here, and now it is. So there's my 3 degrees, and here's my perpendicular. You can see that I am, well, this is going to go back, there we go, right on the money. So I'm going to cut it a little shorter. It's too long right now. I'm going to cut it about, so it's 2 inches inside each end here. Then I'll be ready to rock and roll. Make my other setups and cut this. Now the one thing I will have to do is when I put that shorter piece on here, because it's going to be closer, that's going to change that angle even more. So I'll have to run this through the planer again and make it thinner. But that won't be a problem. So let me get that thing cut to size, and then we'll come back and I'll start drilling those holes. All right, here's a new perspective on what I'm doing. So I've got my wedge behind there. I got my bit right on my mark. And then from here, it's just 2 inches on down the line. So I'm using my 3-2-1 blocks. So I'll be able to get the first hole, remove one block, second hole, third hole, and then reset up again. So let me drill these 3 holes. And what I haven't done yet is set my depth of my drill stop. The other thing I've done is I've made sure that let me widen this out here. You know, I've got this piece of 48-inch extrusion as my fence, but I made sure that I've skewed it this way to make sure I have 24 inches of run here as I make my holes. So actually I need more than that. I need 24. I need about 27. So I do have enough going that way. So let me get this taken care of here, and we'll get busy. And hopefully that'll work out okay. Yeah. Okay, so now from here, what I need to do is just hold this, move my stop, get my block back in here, tighten it back up, and now I guess I gotta remove one. Yeah, I'll only be able to do 2 at a time now. Alright, so you get the idea. I'll just keep going on down the line until I get to my 12th one, and then I have to offset 3 inches, but I'll just use my 3-2-1 block the long way to get that 3-inch offset. So we'll come back after I get all these done. Okay, well, I want to show this to you. When I got out to this side here where there was no longer support for these, I had to do something a little different. I had to clamp the board in place so that it wouldn't move on me. And then I'm getting ready to do my last hole here. I want my 3-inch offset. So here's how I did it. Just bring this over, I held it in place, and then I was able to tighten my stop block like so. Loosen this up, slide it over, and now I've got my offset that I want. So I can drill my last hole here. Okay, so 12 and 1. This one for the bridge. And now they're set at that 3 degree, as I lay it down flat. Now they're tipped back 3 degrees, so that cue is going to want to naturally fall back toward the wall. So that worked out great. I'm pleased with that. Let me get this cleaned up. I'll reset up for my top piece, and we'll be good to go there. I found a wedge that's going to work for me just out of my scrap pile. It's a real thin piece. I was going to try this rod, but even this was too thick. This is 1/8 inch, and it was too much. So here's where I'm at, and I wanted to bring this. I'm going to show you this because I just realized that I can make more holes doing it this way. So these are 1, 2, 3 blocks, right? So 3 and 3 is 6. So I can do 1, 2, 3, 4. So my multiplication skills weren't all that great there. What I'm using here is a 5/8 inch bit. I've got my depth of cut located, and I'm just gonna drill holes, and then I'll come back and make my tangent lines with the table saw, and hopefully I can get that lined up just right. So same thing, 12 holes plus 1, and then figure out my length and then cut it off and go from there. So no great mystery here. I'm just going to drill these holes, and when I come back I'll show you the setup I'm going to use to get these tangent lines cut. Okay, just a little update here for you. I just finished drilling these holes, and I got to make sure I mark the bottom here so I keep my angle. This is the bottom. But what happened is that as I was doing this, because I'm at this angle here, you know, I'm going to exaggerate, because I'm at this angle where it's tipped up, there's no support on the back side here, and I had some blowout. You can see these are not perfectly round, so I had some chip out on the bottom side. So what I just ended up doing was taking this and running it through my planer. Luckily, I was a little fat of 3/4 of an inch, so when I planed it down to, now I'm just a hair under 3/4, but that removed all that blowout. So you know, a little word to the wise: if you're going to end up doing something like this where you're drilling angled holes, give yourself some added thickness so that you can plane that blowout off of there and not lose your dimension piece, you know, or what you want to be your final dimension. So I'm good. I'm pleased with that. I'm going to take my other board that I was going to put on the bottom here to make my right angle. I'm going to plane that to that same thickness so that when you look at it from the end, they appear to be the same. So I'm going to do that, and then that's going to be it for me tonight. But tomorrow I'll set up and we'll make these cuts here to remove these tangent pieces here, and hopefully get that lined up just perfect. So we'll see what's going on with that tomorrow.